It's Barrett and Marco from the Iron podcast here at the Georgian in Barton to launch this season's Fantasy Premier League. We're talking bigger, we're talking better. Marco, what can they expect?
Yeah, again, we're hoping to go bigger and better than last year. We're talking the Scunthorpe players being involved again, some fantastic prizes courtesy of the Georgian, £100 bar tab for the first place again, same as last year, and look, we're really looking forward to it.
And we're so proud again for our relationship, our sponsorship, our partnership with the Georgian in Barton. Should we go in for a few pints?
Yeah.
Hello, this is Alex Calvo Garcia. You're listening to the Iron Hour podcast.
Barra here, and you are listening to the award-winning Iron Hour podcast, proudly in partnership with TalkSport Fan Network, and of course with our sponsors who we are so pleased to still be in partnership with. I'm talking Best Blanks Wholesale, I'm talking Panenka, I'm talking Hole in the Wand, and of course the amazing Georgian in Barton. Marco, where we are today?
Yep, that's where we find ourselves on our initial FPL launch. So obviously we've gone midweek, and look, the uptake's been fantastic. I've said look, so I'm definitely going to get pulled up on that. But yeah, it's brilliant, and looking forward to actually launching. Last year was such a huge success, and we're looking to go one better. So yeah, look, really happy to be here. Yeah, look, this is bad. It's going to be a long day, but yeah, Georgian Barton have donated some fantastic prizes. Obviously, the £100 bar tab for the winner, which I will be nowhere near. So yeah, I'm going to have to just buy my pints. But yeah, look, it's
we'll talk about the FPL.
This is a hat trick.
We'll talk about the FPL in just a minute. But coming up on this week's episode of the Iron Hour podcast, we've got the usual stuff. So we're going to break down that 1-1 draw against Yeovil on the opening day. We'll talk about whether we were lucky in the end. Was it a cross? Was it a shot? We'll talk about all that and a little bit more. I know what you think. We've got Spy in the Camp as we look ahead to the Iron trip to Southend. Marco, I know you'll be going down. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. What will you be going down on? That is a question. The train? The car?
Not a train. It will be in a car. Hopefully coming back in a car.
Of course. Ford Escort. That's what you're going down on.
Stay away.
Say less, Barrett. All that's come on this week's episode of the Iron Hour podcast. But kicking us off, let's talk about FPL. So we are here, as you say, in the Georgian in Barton to launch this season's FPL. Fantastic uptake last year. We had 380 members.
Yeah, give or take, yeah. We're going, yeah. Again, like I say, we are hoping to go one better. Last year was a huge success. The guys, obviously from the club, we had Danny Whitehall, Tyler Denton, just to name a few, obviously all being in the league. So yeah, we're hoping to have the same again. I know the guys will be keen. We've already had messages wanting to actually be in the league. So yeah, look, really happy to be here today. And the awards and the prizes are phenomenal. And again, that's a huge thanks to Georgian and Barton. So yeah, if you can join, obviously a lot of you already have, more than I initially thought after not actually launching this. So look, obviously we're talking about today about the Yeovil game, Southend coming up, but we just wanted to do this little piece to pretty much thank Georgian in Barton and definitely get involved.
Yeah, look, let's talk about those prizes. So we've got £100 bar tab for the winner, which is a repeat of last year.
Exactly.
What else have we got then?
So second and third place, second place, you will get a 3-course Sunday dinner for two. Third place, you'll get a 2-course Sunday dinner for two.
Yeah.
And then look, along the season, we're going to have some really special prizes. So there will also be a prize for funniest team name throughout the season. Well, we're going to do that early doors. Yeah. Highest points in certain weeks, which we will just do at
mystery weeks.
Yeah, mystery weeks. So there's no planning. So if you want to be the worst team, go for it. But
no plan. A bit like this podcast, really.
Yeah, no planning.
Yeah, just chuck it together, see what happens.
Yeah, just winging it. But yeah, it's really looking forward to it, and to see how we end up. I mean, ours was pretty intense. The way it ended, I'm sure you all saw Gareth on the pitch on Saturday.
Well, we have to talk about forfeits. So we are taking recommendations for forfeits. Now, Georgian and Barton have chucked their own in there. So they're suggesting that, what we're saying to our listeners is chuck us suggestions. We'll put them all on a wheel. We'll draw at the end of the season. Whoever finishes bottom, that's what you'll be doing. Theirs was a shift in the iron bar.
And to be fair, look, I sort of sympathise with Scunthorpe fans in the iron bar. I'm getting served, so I'm more than happy to help out, but there might be a few pints going missing. But yeah, look, I'm all for that forfeit. I don't intend to be anywhere near the bottom. But yeah, look, if you can send us through any forfeits you might have, as long as they're, what did Max say, legal?
He said as long as it wouldn't interest the local constabulary.
Boring.
Which,
really.
Boring.
Really, yeah.
Boring.
But yeah, look, we're very open to any There might be one now. Someone's listening to the podcast. So yeah, we're
Hello?
really...
He wants to do what?
So yeah, any forfeits, do send them our way. But yeah, we just wanted to do this piece on this podcast before we record ahead of the weekend.
Well, let's talk about FPL teams. So, you like to keep your cards close to your chest. What's your team looking like?
Ironically, whether you agree or don't agree, I mean, what did we see this week on Twitter? Some AI swap? Is that what we've been told? Yeah, well,
yeah. Look,
I actually had a friend who used AI for his whole team last season.
How did he do?
Better than me.
Yeah,
I asked AI for my team this week, and they advised me to have Salah. So yeah, I think take that with what you will. So I'm going to go on my own route. But yeah, look.
Yeah, look.
Yeah, look, I've got it again. Yeah, looking forward to it. And
if you are playing a drinking game, as I know many do, listening to this every time Marco says, "Yeah, look, you are levered," absolutely paralytic at this point.
Literally, there's not even any denying it. My missus picked up that I say, yeah, a lot as well, which makes you think we're not actually podcast trained.
No, and of course, this coming off the back of your appearance on DAZN, which we have to talk about, and a bit of will.i.am. I thought I was watching The Voice at one point with all the swinging on the chair.
Yeah, again, comes down to my lack of media training. A full chair spin nearly happened. I think the girl thought I'd just chosen to join my group.
No, you press the buzzer. I think you've got to stick it.
But yeah, no, really enjoyed it. Apparently, it's gone down really well. We'll be working with them throughout the season. I know you've done a little bit of recording yourself, which is probably better than what we've recorded outside, hopefully. But yeah, really look forward to it.
So some bit of interest outside.
There's been a lot of interest, maybe some summer signings, but yeah.
Okay, right. That takes us on then to our next segment. So I'm going to introduce you now to the rest of the panel. Well, joining me this week then, after that lovely introduction with Marco, I've got Max and Gareth joining me for this episode. What are we on now, Gareth? Is this episode 6?
6, I think. Yeah, 6.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, we're doing all right.
Yeah.
Right. So first, we're going to talk about the Yeovil game, but the big thing from the Yeovil game was, of course, the forfeit from the Fantasy Premier League. Just talk to us about that. I mean, the meta glasses were an absolute touch. If you didn't look like a nonce already, I mean, that really did hammer it home.
And the worst thing was, I forgot to tell Messi to record. So I've worn them, looking like Make-A-Wish had been involved, and got me on the pitch. And yeah, so Ollie Ewing, he watched it and he said, you need to redo it just to get the meta footage.
I think he's right.
No. So, but no, it was a good day, The club were really good with it. And Scunny Bunny and Honey Bunny were loving life. So yeah, it's one of them things. I've done it and I won't be doing it next time.
Yeah, they did ask you to keep a 5-meter social distancing from the kids at all time.
Well, if Ollie Ewing thinks you should do it again, then I think you should do it in one of the Forest Green games and make sure you're holding his hand.
Yeah, we can boo you both.
Maybe stand on his toe, just to try and sort of get him not seriously injured, but injured enough for that game.
I'd probably injure myself. Wait.
So, right, let's get into the Yeovil game then. I've actually, as we're recording this, I've got the full replay on DAZN in the background, which may help us, may help me remember some of the things as it happened. So, let's go through as it happened then, Max. You get the lineup, you see no Connor Smith involved at all. You see Ross Barrows is starting at right back, Max. What's your reaction to that at the time?
I wouldn't say I was massively shocked. That's the thing when you've got 5 different right backs, isn't it? You can't play all of them at the same time. And look, we were talking about it pretty much all the way through the summer. As soon as we signed the Brennan in particular, we knew that we've got depth in wide areas. So, you can't have 4 wingers on the pitch at exactly the same moment. So, I mean, from my end, I wasn't massively shocked. And particularly when you're thinking, okay, we'll play the decent side here, we're gonna have to do some level of defending. So, yeah, I'm sure we'll come on to discuss the game, but I wasn't massively shocked by the starting lineup.
And Gareth, we've talked at length about the plethora of options at right back. A lot of fans would have suggested Ross Barrows as possibly the 4th choice of those 4. Was you shocked to see him start on Saturday?
I don't think shocked. Maybe surprised. With what we've got, but if people are carrying injuries, knocks, then you're looking down, see who can play at right back, aren't you? So, and I think, you know, when you think of the last game of last season, it's Rochdale. Came on, he did a good job. So, you know, he's got his merits. But obviously, quite a few people were shocked when they looked at media. You know, going on about Ross Barrows playing at right back, but I thought he did all right at times. So, you know, no qualms from me.
No qualms from you. And Marco speculated to me after the game that he wondered if Butler was maybe giving those players that had served him well just a game to see how they got on. You know, a loyalty thing, should we say?
I mean, if Marco speculates that the sky is blue, I'd usually look out the window to check. Butler does not strike me as that kind of sentimental figure, shall we say. You know, every point matters, every game matters, every victory matters. It's different if it's the last couple of weeks of the season and you've got players who are out of contract and you're perhaps thinking, you know, that you're finishing mid-table, the points don't matter. But on the opening game of the season, I don't think I agree with that. See, you can have a look at the selection and go, oh, I'd have maybe done X or Y differently, or that caught you by surprise because you didn't know this or that player was injured. But I don't for a second believe that Butler would make that decision for any reason other than he wanted to win the game and he picked what he thought was the best combination of players he had available.
Gareth, I think a lot of fans going into the season have been really pleased by the fact that we've added to experience in that centre-back partnership. But then that obviously does bring question marks over the mobility of our back line. There was a lot of times on Saturday I thought Yeovil got at us and we probably got away with one with a dodgy offside decision.
Yeah, I think there were a couple of dodgy offside decisions, but one definitely that's being screen grabbed and shared about. That ball over the top. Westbrook was the one doing that mainly, knocking it over the top. And I think like you say, it's just the mobility, the speed. Maybe if you've got a Bellahoon in the middle, then that speed's there. But obviously, he's gone for experience at the back. It's something we've got to be wary of because other teams will do it. They will see how Yeovil have done it and attempt the same.
I mean, just on that point, in terms of the back line, I'm going to go back to the first ever INL podcast charity game, which you two, I'm sure, will remember. First 20 minutes of that game, because we were playing with quite a high line, it's one ball over the top. You lose the leg race. You brought on the big centre-half bruiser, which of course was me. Set the tempo nice and early with a clear technical foul, and then say, right, we know we haven't got the pace, drop 15 yards deeper. And, I think on paper, Howe and Evans is our best centre-half pairing. But particularly if you haven't got as much pace as you'd like at fullbacks, for example, then you need to set up in a way that minimises the potential damage that what is a fairly simple ball into the channel can cause you. You perhaps want a little bit more from your holding midfielder or holding midfielders to restrict that ball in the first place. But B, you don't want to run the risk that Howe or Evans is in a foot race with what might be a really speedy frontman, a really speedy winger, or even Zane Westbrook, for example, because you know that you're not going to win that race. So I would be surprised if we defended quite as high against Southend, but they are stylistically a bit of a different side to Yeovil. So look, it'll be interesting to see how it goes, but I still think that's our best centre half pair.
Well, Gareth, I never thought we'd have the INL podcast 11 compared to Scunthorpe United 11, but there we have it.
Can I just jump in as well? That tactical foul. I believe it would have gone down well at rugby.
Look, I'm a big believer in any side, accept your limitations. Know what you're good at and know what you're not. And that doesn't matter if it's the under-9s basketball league or a glamorous 1-1 draw in the National League or a 5-4 victory with the last kick of the game in a charity football match. Gareth scored that day. I saw it with my own eyes.
Gareth also scored the last time we played at Glanford Park. It was just a shame it was in the wrong goal.
A goal's a goal.
A goal is a goal, as often they say. Let's try and get back on track with Saturday's game. Gareth, again, coming back to the starting 11, a lot of question marks over how Deck-Howe fits into this starting lineup, and a lot of concerns from Iron fans going into the season about whether he would be shoehorned in because, he's a good enough player to start, but where does he fit into Andy Butler's 11? Well, we found out the answer to that. It's once again on the wing. Reaction.
He does the job. He does the he'll track back, he'll get forward, but it's not his best position, is it? Especially when you've got other wingers on the bench. But I don't know. It's a tough one because we've got players that can play all across the park, and he does score goals. He does get at people, and that's what I like about him. His work rate. But yeah, I don't think he'll be happy to be playing. Don't get me wrong, but he'd probably prefer it not to be on the wing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna make a prediction, which is obviously down that right hand side. You have Barrows at right back and Howe on the right wing. I don't think they'll change that for Southend because the one thing you'll get from those two is graft. And if you're going away from home to a side like Southend, particularly for the first hour, it's probably what you want more than anything else. I wouldn't surprise me at all if Butler looks at them two and goes, "Yeah, you're playing on Saturday, 100%."
Let's have a look at how the opposition lined up against us then. A couple of players that really did stand out. I thought there's a big argument to say Gareth Zane Westbrook was the best player on the pitch.
There's a big argument. Yeah. Yeah, no, he played well, and he's going to want to play well as well. But I was surprised that the crowd booed him, or a certain section.
Yeah, well, you say the crowd.
A certain section. Yeah.
4 people in the Donny Road end.
But it was also like it was a bit pantomime villain stuff, wasn't it? Like we've all been there at games when like there's been proper booing, and I thought it wasn't Darren Deadman-esque, was it?
I mean, who boos a player that was on loan, so it wasn't even our player, and left to take a 3-year deal?
Exactly, especially as Butler praised him in his season review, didn't he? Said he was based down in Bristol. Said it was a good move for him. It reminds me a bit of that meme, sort of don't fall in love with a loan player. But yeah, I there wasn't any real hostility there. I didn't think.
I think people just warmed up for Ollie Ewing coming.
I think that will be JC.
And let's be clear, but let's also be honest. Those are 2 players that you would have back. Of course you would. You just want. Yeah. Like Barry, you'll remember. You remember when Paul Hayes came back with Barnsley?
Ooh, something chronic.
Yeah, like that was proper grief. He got in that, and then mysteriously, a couple of years later, he signs back. Everybody conveniently forgot that, didn't they? And then a couple of years after that, when he came back for the second half of the 13-14 season,
that Mansfield goal.
Yeah, exactly. A 30-yard volley in front of a packed-out away end on your third debut, 5 minutes into the game. I mean, people forget that the first time he left, Hayes got proper grief for going to Barnsley. Football fans can be fickle in both ways, good and bad.
Another player I wanted to highlight for Yeovil was their left back, Jordan Norville-Williams. I didn't think Barrows played particularly badly or anything like that. I just thought he really struggled against Norville-Williams, who looked quick, he looked agile, he looked defensively astute. And Max going forward, he was a real threat.
He was, and on behalf of the Receding Hairline gang, I'd like to say that's a quality Barton, isn't it? He had enough hair for at least 15 supporters, I think. He looked a good player, and actually, I think it probably shows in a way how football at this level has evolved in the last few years, because full-backs and wing-backs feel like they've been quite instrumental for a lot of sides in recent years. I think of even Tyler Denton going forward. I think of Gus Scott Morris last season at Southend what did he score? 15 from right wing back.
Yeah.
I know he's since gone on to Oldham. I think of Jamie Record when he was at Yeovil before. He was a big player for them. So yeah, he's a good player at that level, and I suspect he's going to have a good season at Yeovil.
And Gareth, then, we get that late goal. Luke Brennan comes off the bench. He said in his post-match interview that he felt it was his day. He always thought he was going to score. I mean, he described himself as bubbling with anger almost at not being involved in the starting 11. Obvious question, cross or shot?
Who cares? It went in. I think that there's an argument for both, isn't there? Watching, only he will know. But I just think that when the ball's come to him, he's probably seen, he's believed in himself. So I'm going to say he's gone for a shot. But it's just that he just took a little step back as well, just give himself a bit more room just to strike the ball, which, it's a quality player, quality thing to do. But yeah, there were players that it could have been aiming for, and maybe the keepers thought it was going to be a cross as well. So yeah, it's disguised it well when it's a shot and it's gone in, and we're all happy.
He's done ever so well to get that back lift on it, as you say, with that lean back at the last moment. To get that back lift is incredible. Max, a point of fair result in the end?
Yes, I think on the balance of play, I'm not really convinced that either side did enough to justify winning the game. And I thought sort of the last couple of minutes of injury time, you sort of saw both sides go, okay, we can live with that. I think if you'd spoken to most supporters before the game, both sets of fans would have gone, if they'd been offered a draw, that would have sort of been their reaction as well. Okay, fine, that wouldn't be an awful result. It was quite a cagey affair for large parts of it. I thought obviously Brennan made a difference when he came on. I thought Butterfield made a difference when he came on. I thought our delivery into the box, particularly from set pieces, significantly improved. And I will always find it quite funny when somebody takes back-to-back corners with different feet. Like, that's such an outrageous thing to be able to do at high quality level. If I was a Yeovil fan, I would probably be a bit peeved, but in a way more so with the offside calls. They could have made it 2-0 and then it's totally different gravy. But I think if we're being honest, I think if you look at the chances both sides created, I think if you look at the pattern of play and what both keepers had to do, or frankly didn't have to do, seemed like a fair cop to me.
Gareth, just before we move on, we'll turn our attention to Southend in just a moment. Max has mentioned Jacob Butterfield. I'll be honest, when Butterfield signed for us, I was of the school of thought of he's more of a coach than a player. I struggled to see where he would fit into the squad this year. Even when Andy Butler looked me in the eye when we interviewed him for the podcast and he said, look, he's come to do both and he's going to be involved in the squad throughout the season, I still didn't believe him. Well, I believe him now. He really did make a difference on Saturday, Gaz.
He did, yeah. It was just like a throwback to when we had him before. It's just his feet are so quick and he creates so much space. And like you say, Max has said the quality ball's in as well, both feet. There'll be shouts for him to be starting against Southend.
I think that's maybe taking a bit too far.
Yeah, but like I say, I think there'll be a lot more cameos from him than I think that probably last 20 minutes or so, 25, he'll come on. And he changed the game for me. I think all the substitutions changed the game when they came on. That first raft of substitutions just added more energy, more better balls as well. I thought Gale had a really good game as well when he's come on. So yeah, I think we'll definitely see more of Butterfield than people were expecting throughout the season for definite.
Yeah,
as long as he's injury free.
I was just going to add to that. Just on Butterfield, I think a bit like I was talking about with Howard Barrows earlier. In a way, Southend away is almost the last game I would pick him for. If you're expecting quite a physical battle where you know that you're going to have to defend and you're going to have to get stuck in, but based on that half an hour, if you were playing either in the cup or at home to a side who were going to defend quite compact, a low block, perhaps a struggling side, I think you could absolutely justify starting Butterfield for an extra bit of creativity in the middle of the park. Well, 100%.
Right then, let's turn our attention to Saturday's trip. It's North Lincolnshire down to the south of the country, Southend to be more specific, and we'll kick our preview off with the return of Spy in the Camp. Listeners, up next, it's the return of Spy in the Camp. Joining me this week, Chris Phillips, Chief Sports Reporter at The Echo, covering, of course, Southend, this weekend's opponent, and a couple of other things you get up to as well, Chris. A marathon runner, Tennis Mad fundraiser. I'm going off your Twitter here, and co-owner of was this Run Free Official. Talk to us about that.
Oh yeah, that's we're doing that for 5 or 6 years now. It's a mental health support group that we run in Southend. It uses the power of sport to help those of us that are struggling, really. So it's every Friday night. One Friday is football, then tennis, then football. It alternates between the two, and it's free for anybody that has any kind of mental health issue. It's been going really well. Football-wise, we play a lot of matches. We get to play at some good grounds. I won't tell you about the goal of my whole entire life. I somehow scored last week. Didn't realise I could still kick it that far. So that was quite a good one. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. But behind it all, there's a more serious reason, and it's everybody sticking together that at some point or other has been through difficult times, and we're there to support them. So yeah, it's something that I'm quite passionate about and still continue to enjoy and put on in Southend, and it continues to go from strength to strength.
Brilliant stuff. Well, speaking of goals, Southend kicked the season off with a 3-1 victory at Altrincham. I mean, job done, would you say, or was it a surprising performance?
Yeah, it was difficult for Southend this summer. I think this has been the hardest time I've had to predict just how Southend are going to get on this season, probably since about 2010. The level of change has been incredible at Southend. 19 players have left since the end of last season, if you're including the players that we had on loan. 14 or 15 have arrived in the opposite direction, and you can only read so much into pre-season, can't you? There had been a few promising signs and 1 or 2 players that had looked quite good and dangerous, but it's not proper football, is it? It's a bit ticky-tacky. It's certainly not like what you're going to get in the National League. So going into the start of the season was a bit of an entering the unknown in many ways. And when it comes to Altrincham away, I know Scunthorpe are a bit of a bogey side, but Altrincham are as well. We'd lost there the last 4 times and hadn't scored a single goal. So when we got 1-0 down early on, it was like, oh no, here we go again. So for Southend to get back into the game like they did, they got the initiative, started to have their own periods of possession and pressure, and come the final whistle, Southend were much the better team. A red card to Altrincham midway through the second half helped, but before then Southend were on top and looked the stronger side. So it was definitely an encouraging start and showed reasons for optimism going into our game on Saturday.
You talked there about changes in the summer. The biggest change, the most notable one, of course, is Kieran Dyer coming in as manager. A surprise?
Yes and no, really. I think that towards the end of the season, that was becoming almost inevitable that Kevin Mayer was going to be moving on. He'd done a great job, and I'm so pleased that he was able to sign off with winning at Wembley, and that his group of players did likewise as well after everything that they had done to help the club through the most difficult time in its challenging period. But I think it had come to a point where, for both parties, it was what was needed, really. I think they both needed a break, a fresh challenge, and fresh initiative, really, for both of them. I'm sure Kevin will go on to manage at a higher level, and he'll do well, I'm certain. And for Southend, I was quite surprised, perhaps, that it was Kieran Dyer. His name didn't get mentioned until quite late on. There were 1 or 2 others early on that got mentioned. So when it came that he was in the running, I was initially quite surprised, but he talks really well when you sit down and go through things with him. He talks very thoroughly, very openly, and he comes across really well. So he's been excellent to deal with so far, and he seemed to tick quite a few boxes. It's always a risk, but any managerial appointment isn't it, really? He's had experience as a coach. He's certainly been out and about and earned his stripes, as they say. So this was the next rank of the progression for him, really. And so far, the signs have been promising. He's keen to play football on the front foot, keen to get forward. He's got a lot of exciting wingers in the squad, so there's a lot to like, and it'd be interesting to see how things transpire. So it was perhaps more of a surprise that it was Kieran Dyer because of how late he sort of came to the party and had him linked to the position. But having spoken to him and understood the situation a lot more, it makes a lot more sense now, and I think it's seen as an exciting appointment.
Yeah, it is an exciting appointment. I guess there's a bit of a spotlight on Southend this year, a bit like there is with Scunthorpe, because of the mini-series on DAZN. I've managed to catch the first episode last night. It obviously focuses on Southend, and Kieran Dyer is speaking really well. How do you think he'll cope with that extra kind of fanfare?
Yeah, I think he'll be used to it. I think with the career that he's had, he's probably used to an even greater level of media intrusion and intrusion in general in terms of publicity and what he would have dealt with. I don't think you play for the clubs that he had without having had that. He played quite a few times for England, didn't he? He went to major tournaments. Of course, it's different when you are the manager and you're the main man as such, and you're the one that's being more judged individually and you've got more fingers being pointed at you. But I don't think he'll be fazed by it at all. I think he's quite open. He's often saying how he doesn't mind putting pressure on himself. He'll always say that he thinks Southend should be going for promotion. He's spoken openly about 100 goals, 100 points and things like that. So he's not shy in coming forward about what he demands and what he wants. So I don't think anything like that will really faze him at all. I think he'll be used to it. And I think he'll almost embrace it, really. And I think he's just excited to have this opportunity. And there's going to be times when you're never too sure how quickly things are going to gel together when you've got so many new signings and you're forming a new side. But he said as well that he won't let that be an excuse. So far, so good. It's still very early days, and Saturday will be another difficult test. But yeah, I don't think in terms of intrusion or anything like that, he'll be fazed. And I think it'll be something that he'll be used to.
Big departure of Gus Scott Morris in the summer, a player that was the heartbeat of Southend, really, both defensively and going forward. A big miss, and how will he be replaced?
Yeah, he was a real talisman for Southend, really. He was the main man. He was player of the year 3 seasons in a row and got 17 goals from right wing back the last 2 seasons. And fair play to him. He came in, he was absolutely fantastic, and he deserved that opportunity to play in the Football League and to play higher. Nobody could have any complaints about him wanting to move on and to better himself, really. Southend have changed formation since the change of manager, so it's very much a back four now. So if Gus had stayed, perhaps it wouldn't really have suited him anyway. He might not have had the freedom to get forward in the way that he had done in previous years. It's a 4-2-3-1 now, so the attacking impetus comes from those wide wingers, which is easy for me to say. And Southend have certainly got a lot of those. So, yeah, it was really sad to see Gus go. He was certainly one of the ones that hit hardest when he did depart. But I think it was an obvious one, really. I think it had been on the cards for a while that he was going to leave just because of the numbers that he was achieving and the number of clubs that would be wanting him to join. And at his age, he couldn't really wait and try and get promotion for Southend. This probably would be his last chance to get into the Football League. He's gone to another big club. So I think it just ticked all the boxes really for him, and everyone at Southend will wish him really well and only have good things to say about him. He was a great character and one of those players that was almost impossible not to like, really. He had that kind of enthusiasm and energy that was really made you warm to him straight away. It was infectious. So, yeah, he would be one of the biggest ones. There was quite a few eventually, like Keenan and Pyer Forson, who went to Oldham as well. So there were quite a few that left. But now for them and for Southend, I think it's very much looking forward to the future. Vontae Daly-Campbell has come in. He's the right back at the moment. And he started well. He's not going to be Gus, but he's not playing in the same kind of role. So he started well, and good luck to him.
And final question then. Season ended in disappointment last year, ironically enough, at the hands of Scunthorpe United. You lost that playoff eliminator at Glanford Park 1-0, and it was a tight end-to-end game at times. Just looking forward to this season, then what's your expectation for this season? What would you take as a success? And, final one really for a score prediction as well.
I think, as I touched on earlier, this is so difficult to predict Southend season because we're entering the unknown in so many ways. The the number of new players, the number of different partnerships. It's been a real kind of transitional period. And I guess my worry would be how long it would take for things to gel together. Saturday was encouraging, and this weekend will be another indicator of just where Southend are at the moment, because this is a really difficult fixture and it's a different type of challenge. I don't know whether or not you've changed the way that you've played, but I thought at times, the 3 times you beat us last season, I thought Scunthorpe had the edge physically. Maybe bullied Southend a bit too strong, but seemed to sort of run over them at times. And in the playoff game, Southend never really got going. I never really felt like we were in the game or we were going to get into it. It was a very disappointing evening from our point of view. So the first part of the question, what can Southend do? I think playoffs has got to be the minimum. I think Southend, like Scunthorpe, the clubs in this league have always got to be looking to try and get back into the EFL. We talk to those involved in the playing side of things and the managerial side of things. They'll say that they want to win the league. That's what they're going for, top 3 and trying to improve on the last few seasons. So that's what they're trying to achieve, and they think that that's possible. And I do as well, really. If I was to look at it, I think there's no reason why Southend shouldn't be in the playoffs. I think it's a more open league this year. I don't think anybody is going to run away with it, really. It may take fewer points to win the league or to even get into the top 7. And perhaps that will help clubs like ours to even finish higher up, because there's not going to be a team that necessarily is way above 100 points or 2 teams, or I think it's going to be a lot closer. As for Saturday, Scunthorpe are a bit of a bogey team, but it's normally at your ground, isn't it? In particular, I think I've only ever seen Southend win once there in 15 attempts or something like that. So I'm glad it's at Roots Hall, first of all. Although I have to say, when you came here last season, you were incredibly impressive and thoroughly deserved the victory that afternoon. So this was one that I think will give a really big indicator as to where Southend are and what they can achieve, because of the challenge that I think will be coming from Scunthorpe, a good side, a physical side, which is something that Southend have got to get to grips with. They've got a lot of nice footballers, a lot of really good wingers, and they're going to be attacking and on the front foot. So it'll be really intriguing to see how they deal with a side like Scunthorpe. And I think it might be a draw. I think it might be 1-1. That will be my prediction. I'm terrible at predictions, so that probably rules it out being a draw. But yeah, I can see it being quite tight between 2 teams who I think will be in the playoffs again come the end of the season. So yeah, looking forward to it. It's our first game at Roots Hall. I think it's close to 8,000 tickets have already been sold for the game, so it'll be a good atmosphere. Kieran Dyer's first home game, first proper home game in charge. So yeah, it's got all the makings of a good game, and let's hope that it is.
Well, there we have it, Gareth. They were the thoughts of Chris Phillips, a reporter for the Southend local newspaper. Thought he was very insightful. He was a nice little extended piece there. We talked about Gus Scott Morris earlier on. Max did, about him departing, obviously, for Oldham. Chris really focused on that and the big gap he leaves. Do you think Southend fans will see it that way, or do you think they'll be going into this season now thinking, no, we're defensively astute?
I think they've recruited well, haven't they?
Yeah,
they have this season. So I think they'll be going into I think they'll be going to this season with a bit of confidence, a bit of optimism that this is their year. Gus Scott Morris is going to be a miss for any team. If you've had him in your team, he's going to be a big miss. But I think they'll soon forget about that. They'll get some good results. So I think they'll do well this season, and I think the fans will get behind the team as they always seem to do, and be positive with it. But it's up to other teams going there or playing them to shut them up and shut them down and get the results. So it's one player doesn't make a team. It'll be a big miss, but they've recruited well.
Yeah, just on Scott Morris. If they do miss him, I don't think it will be defensively. I think it will be going forward. Obviously, I think we mentioned earlier, didn't we scored 15. I want to say from wing back. But yeah, I thought that was a great interview with Chris. His stuff for the Southend Echo when they had issues with their owner Martin and sort of all this financial stuff was really, really excellent reporting. So well done, Barrow, for backing an even bigger expert than you.
Let's talk about their managerial change as well, then, Max. Kieran Dyer comes in. I mean, straight away springs to mind. He's good in a crisis. He knows how to stop a fight.
I mean, would you scrap with Lee Bowyer? I'm not sure I would. As a retro reference for our younger listeners.
No, but I like to think Marco would.
I mean, look, that's in a way more than Scotland. That for me is the big open-ended question mark in terms of Southend this season. Gareth is right; they've recruited well. Southend are a big club with big expectations. What were they averaging last season? Like north of 7,000. When they were only ever on the edge of the playoffs. A very, very well supported club, especially when you think of how difficult they find it to compete with West Ham. Southend are a bigger club than we are, so going there is always going to be a challenge. I would probably, in a way, make a case that it was just about our best performance last season, actually, going away to Southend. I thought in the first half the defending was terrific. Boyce and the whole back line in the air were majestic, and then in the second half, immediately stepped up the tempo, really hit them on the break. Probably should have won really comfortably. I think Deck Howard had a great chance to make it 3-0. So they had a really positive result against Altrincham, came from 1-0 down and win 3-1. But we'll see. Dye's an interesting appointment. I'm not as sure about it. I think Mayer was perhaps a little bit harshly treated myself, but I'm obviously not a Southend fan. So let's hope we can give him a good test.
Gareth, as we do turn our attention to Southend, I think a really good reference point will be Andy Butler's interview on BBC Radio Humberside, which aired on Thursday. A couple of headlines from that. His comment here that Denton's touch and go after that goal-saving tackle on Saturday. So, Gareth, how much of a miss would Denton be if he doesn't make it?
I think it would be a miss, but
when I say doesn't make it, I mean doesn't make the starting 11. I don't mean perishes.
No, it's going to be a miss.
What a way to break that. Forget the obituary notices of the local paper. Barrows, and he's gone into a new line of work. He's a reader at funerals.
There's another line you want, is it? He was a great man. He did perish.
Yeah, but no, I think Horton's more than capable. And he likes to get forward himself, and he's got a decent ball he can put in as well, Horton. So I'd have, if Denton doesn't make it, then Horton for me is more than capable to step in and replace him. More than capable.
Max moving a little bit further up the pitch. Pat Jones seemed to signal to the bench quite often on Saturday, particularly late in the second half, just before he got substituted, that he was struggling. Butler has confirmed that was just cramp, and he expects him to be full available for selection for the Southend trip. Do you expect him to start?
Yeah, I probably do. Just because I don't think you necessarily want to be chopping and changing things straight away. Don't get me wrong. I am a big believer in horses for courses and taking things game by game when you do have depth options. But it's a good opportunity, and if we can defend well, particularly as we get into the second half, that there will be space on the break. There will be opportunities for our creative players to try and hurt Southend in transition. So I'm sure Pat Jones, if he is fully fit, it would be a big part of that. But he won't be the only one. You'll be looking for everybody to step up, and certainly hoping they do.
Gareth, we talked about the situation at right back earlier on. Andy Butler has said Rose, Starbuck, Ogle, all available for selection going into this weekend. So my question to you would be, who do you expect to start at right back? Second question, who would you start at right back?
I think I'd go Rose. I'd expect Rose to be there, and I'd also start Rose there as well. I know there's calls for him to be in centre mid. He's done well there, but I think at right back he's got the height as well. Like to get tackling, like to get forward. So yeah, I'd be surprised if it wasn't Rose. But whoever he chooses, they're all more than capable, as we've seen in the past. You know, we've seen Ogle before. I know he's come back now after his Oldham stint, and Starbuck as well. They're all more than capable. So it's whoever he chooses, whoever he sees fit to deputise there, who's going to do the best job. But for me, I'd go Rose.
Max, I think I'm going to stick with that because, of those three that are available less than Barrows, the Rose, Starbuck, Ogle, I think Rose is the one that I would have said Max is probably least likely to start at right back, given the fact when he came from Peterborough originally, he was utilised as a centre-back there. And then we were told, throughout the summer that really Butler does see him as that CDM.
I mean, he's clearly a versatile player. Played well at CDM away at Sutton, I believe. Scored the scored the winner. So, I do think there's maybe a little bit of a Richard Hines in terms of that kind of profile of player, centre half, right back, holding midfielder. And you do get a lot of players. Even somebody like Graham Alexander, for example, played at right back and holding midfield for a long time of his career. I'm sure Rose will have a big part to play this season. I'm not just saying that because I've sponsored him. In terms of Starbuck, I mean he's been busy this week, hasn't he? Because the Starbucks near Glanford Park has opened, and Scunny thought, right, we've got to send a player to congratulate them on their opening. Let's send Joe Starbuck. So I thought it was, I thought it was very fitting. If I had to guess, I think Butler will stick with Barrows. I thought he played well against Yeovil. And I think, particularly from his experience as a centre-half, and you look at how, due to factors outside of our control last season, the back line did chop and change quite a lot. I think he'll potentially be looking to try and keep as consistent a back line as possible, injuries permitting. So I'm gonna say that I would start Barrows, and I think Butler will do too.
Yeah, I think it's just a shame that Kevin McDonald arrived at Scunny in 2010, way after the Mackies opened. I think another opportunity.
Can we sign anybody called Costa?
I'll tell you what, that picture's cost a lot, hasn't it?
Ladies and gentlemen, he's here all week. I know there's problems with Barra's sound, but when it comes to a good pun, he can make sure he's still heard.
Listeners, not even scripted. Can you believe that?
I think they can tell that. I don't think we have to fight that argument that this is not scripted.
Okay, Luke Brennan then. Let's turn our attention to him. Gareth, I'll stick with you. He got through the game. Obviously, he came off the bench. He got through the game without an issue. I mean, he's chomping at the bit. Do you think he'll get the nod on Saturday?
What, over Jones? No.
You tell me. Maybe how?
No, I think I know it's been said that they play on the left, but I think they can play on both sides, can't they? So I think Jones went over onto the right hand side at one point in the game against Yeovil. So yeah, I'd start them both. Why not? I'd play Brennan from the off and Jones. I just think it gives Southend something to think about then as well. With both of them running at you.
Yeah. The final thing to mention from the Andy Butler BBC Radio Humberside interview was the confirmation that Hugh Parker is now in the building. I think that was the worst kept secret in Scunthorpe United history. And there's quite a few there to go at. But Gareth, your reaction to that signing now it has finally happened. Then again, do you see a spot for him in the squad on Saturday?
Maybe on the bench. Definitely on the bench. I don't think he's going to start unless there's an injury to Whitehall that we're not aware of. I was down at the club today actually, and I saw him training. Looks a bit of a unit. So, I think he'll be a handful when we do see him play. But I think, if anything, he's going to be on the bench at the weekend. I'd be surprised if he went straight in. But I think we will see him come on at Southend, depending on how the game goes. But, yeah, I think he'll do a job. It's not Leo Farrell. I know a lot of people wanted him back, but I do think, look, having seen him today in his stature, I think he'll do all right for us. And he looks very fit as well.
Good stuff. Okay, let's move on then to our predictions. as sponsored by the Unity Group. Max, I'll go to you first. Southend versus Scunthorpe United. Give me a score prediction and goal scorers, if there are any.
I think SUFC are going to win. That's there we go. I'm not predicting a draw. 2-0 Southend.
Gareth, bring us back round. Max says 2-0 Southend.
I'm going to go 2-2. I'm going to go 2-2. I think there will be goals at both ends. And you want goal scorers?
Yeah.
I am going to go Callum Howe, and so think about this. I'm going to go, let me think, Hugh Parker off the bench.
Nice. Gareth goes for a Desmond, and I will go for a 1-0 Scunthorpe United victory. My goal scorer will be Callum Howe. So there you go. I'm going for the other Howe brother. Okay, well, that wraps up our preview ahead of the trip to Southend. Gareth, before we finish the podcast, I thought we'd just spend a few minutes talking about the recent documentary on DAZN. Both yourself and I featured quite prominently on the first episode. Southend, obviously the other team in focus from DAZN this season. Mm-hmm. Do you think the extra attention, do you think it means anything to Andy Butler, both either in a negative or a positive way?
He won't be watching it, will he? He won't be aware. No, I don't think it's, it's something that just is about the club, isn't it? The fan base. It's not. I don't think it's about the players specifically. It's something extra, people around the club, but I don't really think I don't think it'll make any difference to him, to be honest. What's happening, as long as he don't get in his way. I just think it's just one of those things happening around the club, and it's happening, but he's not going to be at the centre of it and everything like that. So I don't think it will really faze him that it's happening.
No, Max, I guess we've seen a lot of these kind of documentaries. It was obviously great that, it was great to see Gareth on there. It was a nice little soundbite that we got there. Is it called Vox Popping, I think? But my question would be, but Andy Butler never strikes me as the kind of manager that would allow cameras into the dressing room. So I don't think it will be that kind of documentary. If he could get one message across to the viewers throughout the season, Max, what do you think he will try and portray an Andy Butler Scunthorpe United squad to be?
The best it can possibly be. Just every day work hard, every day take the right decision to try and improve your chances of being a good player, a good side. I think Gareth is right. I don't think he'll be too phased about it. I think the only impact it'll have on Andy Butler as to whether or not it's increased his wage budget, in terms of the financial implications of it. And certainly he's been, I think, quite well backed so far this summer when you look at the recruitment and the quality and the number of players that he's been able to bring in and replace the quality players we've had leave the building as well. So, this is nothing new in football. I'm not convinced that it has a particular effect either way in terms of any club's chances. And if footballers win football matches at the end of the day, and if you're affected by a camera one way or the other, then you're probably not the best side in begin with. Somebody, you think that Neil Warnock was part of a documentary with Sheffield United nearly 25 years ago. You couldn't think of more old school than that. There was that one with Peterborough, where Barry Fry's saying "sold to the fat bastard in the blue blazer," talking about himself in the third person, which is a great line. There was that one at Orient in the mid-90s, where John Sitton.
My God, the greatest football documentary. I think the football footage in that documentary is less than 0.5%.
Yeah,
it's all Sitton.
Like, if it does make you wonder, what did they leave on the cutting room floor? If they've got Sitton going, right, I'll have you, and you bring a mate, and you bring your dinner because I'll fight all of you. What didn't make the cut?
Is that what we want? Is that what we want of Butts?
I mean, no, because if they end up having those kind of discussions, season probably hasn't gone that well. And if we end up getting sold for a fiver like Orient were that year, I've got other questions. Or I think of I know this might not be one that you fondly remember, Barrow, but I think of Sunderland Till I Die. The back-to-back relegations. Was Chris Coleman arguing with a fan in the bush?
Yeah, it was all a bit weird. What did he say? He said, "I'm a dad."
I'm a dad. I've got 5 kids.
I'm there like, aren't we all, mate? It's not really a brag, is it?
But nowadays as well, I often think it depends on what kind of agreement you've struck. So you see a lot of the big clubs. A lot of them nowadays. They've got content control. I think of the Manchester City one. The only bit of that documentary I found remotely interesting was when they lost to Wigan in the cup, because they all started shouting and scrapping with each other. Or the Spurs one when Mourinho's just taken over and they've got Pochettino on the screen and he goes, "Oh, shut up," and turns the TV off. And so I don't think we'll have to deal with anything quite that dramatic or anything that comes with quite that level of scrutiny. What matters is what happens on the pitch, and if we can finish in the playoffs again, I think pretty much every Iron fan would be pretty happy with that.
So there you go, Iron listeners. You can catch that documentary, Forged in Iron, exclusively on DAZN. Give that a listen. We obviously talked about the FPL at the start of the episode. Please join up. We've got all the join up codes, all the links, everything on our social media. We're pleased to say, since we recorded the introduction to this podcast with Marco, we're pleased to say JB has signed up now. So that's the first player. We hope the first of many players. There's lots and lots of prizes as we talked about this year. So join us. And thanks for joining us once again on this episode of the Iron Owl podcast. We'll see you next week. Until then, up the iron.